Our restructuring plan sheds investment in less productive, non-strategic areas of our business and will result in a net headcount reduction of approximately 8%, while also driving a significant increase in investment, focus, and capabilities around our biggest franchises.
If you missed it and you weren't listening carefully, that's what it sounds like in a corporate executive meeting room when 800 people get fired. And this isn't for any old company. This is for Blizzard and Activision. I went and I found the recording of their public earnings call last February of 2019. So when he says a net headcount reduction of 8%, what that really means is 800 people are about to struggle, figure out how to pay their rent, how to take care of their kids, how to put food on the table. And when he said it, there was no, unfortunately, we have to announce. There was no, we feel bad about this, or there was no sadness in that announcement. Just very robotic. 8% of the company is getting fired. The dude doesn't give a f. And in this earnings call, they have record all-time high profits. So they weren't struggling financially in any way. But I really want to break down what he said here.
Our restructuring plan sheds investment in less productive, non-strategic areas of our business.
Now, would you have taken the job if you had known that the job you were going to take would have been categorized as less productive and not strategic? And then second, he says,
areas of our business.
Areas of our business, not your business. You're just the less productive, non-strategic part of our business. That's what they think of you. And then third, just because something is less productive doesn't mean it's not needed. But then they went back and they posted those same job positions after they realized that they actually needed those non-strategic, less productive areas. Except now, it's a 3-for-1 job.
First, they actually do this quite a bit, and they have a thing going where they'll axe someone and then relist their job, but with more roles, more responsibilities. And then the second thing that they do that's really scummy is they get rid of people and then they relist the job, but with a lower salary. Also, Blizzard wages are notoriously low. I mean, there are many tales of people seeing Uber stickers in the Blizzard parking lot.
They don't care about how fun the game is. They don't care about the balance of the game. They don't care about that cool new ability. They don't care about the nostalgia factor of the maps you played on when you were a kid. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is profit and making money. And you're just a resource in order to do that. And you know what? Here's 20 seconds of the execs at Blizzard calling people resources.
Specifically, as we reallocate resources and hire new talent, Activision management expects additional resources with a substantial increase in Candy development resources. The advertising business will continue to add engineering and direct sales resources, and the Overwatch League remains a key strategic focus where we will grow the number of resources involved. Additional development resources will help to release content that is both broader and deeper. Blizzard's management is reinforcing its pipeline with more resources than ever before. We will continue to invest in breakthrough new ideas, focused resources, and we have already started to increase developer resources on our biggest franchises and will be aggressively hiring talent in the coming quarters.
Imagine you're at Blizzard and you're listening to this earnings call because you know, oh, record high profits, things are going good. And then you hear a net headcount reduction of 8%. And then you realize you're a community manager. I hope that's not me. And then you realize it's you. And then you have to sit there and listen to 55 more minutes of the executives above you calling you a resource. You have a family at home. You have kids at home. You have a life. You got to pay rent. Nah, you're just a resource. This is what corporate jargon sounds like in the real world.
In short, we are refocusing the entire company to return to the franchise focus that has fueled our long-term success and to better leverage the scale of our business for future growth.
Most of us probably played video games growing up. We grew up with our iconic video game characters. We stayed up all night long. We started with split screen, and you look at your friend's screen and you cheat and you get mad at each other for the day, and then that graduated to Xbox LAN parties. A lot of us think, you know what would be really cool to have as a job? Is to make video games. Because all those things that I thought would be cool in the video game, I'd have a chance to be able to put in there. Who doesn't want to work on their favorite video game? Who doesn't want to work on Halo? Who doesn't want to be part of making World of Warcraft? Who doesn't want to make their favorite franchise? It's a dream to make video games and get paid to play them. But the reality of making games is very different. They have this thing called crunch. And crunch is just synonymous with working overtime. And crunch is very, very common in the video game industry. It's not mandatory to stay and work overtime. You're free to leave at 5 p.m. But when you see all of your coworkers staying after 5 p.m. to meet the deadline to get the job done, then you're probably going to do it too. But even then, every time a game is released a lot of people's jobs are lost. They hire everyone to develop the game is released, and they don't need the same amount of people that they hired initially to make the game to maintain the game. The turnover rate in the game dev industry is insane. For every person that quits in the video game industry, there are 30 other people in line waiting and competing to get that job to be worked 80 hours a week for lower pay than what their skills could get them in any other industry. As Blizzard would say, you can't put a price on prestige. You are paying to have your name be part of some project that you thoroughly enjoyed as a kid, and they know that, and they're taking advantage of the fact that you're blinded by that. And even then, just because you get into game dev doesn't mean that you'll necessarily work on a title that you like. A lot of people get into game dev thinking that they're going to work on something that's in the top 10 list of Twitch, and they end up working on something like Hello Kitty Car Racers, something that no one's ever heard of, something that is just bloatware on the Nintendo DS. Let's use Fortnite, for example. There's an article from Polygon.com about what it's like to work there. Let me read you some of it. I work an average of 70 hours a week. There's probably at least 50 or 100 other people at Epic working those hours. I know people who pull 100-hour weeks. The company gives us unlimited time off, but it's almost impossible to take the time off. If I take the time off, the workload falls on other people, and no one wants to be that guy. So this is a direct example of peer pressure. He goes on to say, I hardly sleep, I'm grumpy at home, I have no energy to go out. Getting a weekend away from work is a major achievement. If I take a Saturday off, I feel guilty. I'm not being forced to work this way, but if I don't, then the job won't get done. I know some people who just refuse to work weekends, and then we missed a deadline because their part of the package wasn't completed and they were fired. If I got to the end of an 8-hour workday and I turned to my manager to ask if I needed to stay, they'd often look at me as if I was actively stupid. Because officially, you don't have to keep working, but in reality, it's sit back down, we'll be here for a while. If you did not do overtime, it was a mark against your character. This happens a lot in the software industry. Yeah, you don't gotta do the overtime. Yeah, you can leave when the bell hits 5 o'clock. You do your 8 hours, you're in, you're out, but you will never advance in the company again. And when it comes time to downsize the company, who do you think's gonna be first on the chopping block? Another source said that contractors who declined to work long hours were often replaced. You're on a contract, it could be 3 months, it could be a year, but if you don't do the extra work, it's most likely that your contract won't be renewed. All management wanted was people who are disposable. The situation was, come in and do as many hours as we need you to do. They put the contractors in a situation where if they don't do that overtime, they know that they're not coming back. One senior guy would say, just get more bodies. That's what the contractors were called. Bodies. And when we're done with them, we can just dispose of them. They can be replaced with fresh people who don't have the toxic nature of being disgruntled. So basically, they just hire a bunch of contractors, use them up until they're shriveled and their brains can't work anymore and produce anything of quality, and they just hired brand new contractors that are, again, excited to work on their favorite franchise and be part of the team because they don't know the reality of the game dev industry. I was working at least 12-hour days, 7 days a week, for at least 4 or 5 months. A lot of that was having to stay at work until 3 or 4 in the morning. Many of our sources said that refusing to work late hours represented a serious impediment to career advancement. Bosses expected workers to stay late and to not complain. It wasn't much of a conversation. It was really, I just hope that I didn't have plans this weekend because this is what needs to get done. And if you did have something going on, it had to be serious, otherwise it was going to be a negative experience for that person. Now, I don't know about you, I don't know what negative experience means, but I can imagine you're gonna get a sit down and you're gonna get the old, you're not being part of the company family. You're not being a team player. You see everyone else is doing 100 hours a week, so you should be too, and you need to explain why and what you're doing with those hours outside of work. I saw some coworkers who were patient and fine to begin with, but got angrier and angrier over time, pulling so many hours. One day they might stand up and walk out and we'd never see them again. Nobody would talk about them. If I asked, hey, is that person working here anymore? I would get weird look, because you're not supposed to talk about the people that have a backbone and leave, because then that would, demotivate people. There's actually a letter from a man's wife that wrote anonymously to the company EA talking about how she is having trouble supporting her husband because her husband is never home and always upset and basically sad. My significant other works for Electronic Arts, and I'm what you might call a disgruntled spouse. Within weeks, production had accelerated into a mild crunch. 8 6-hour days a week. Not bad. Months remained until any real crunch would start, and the team was told that this was pre-crunch, but there was going to be a bigger crunch towards the end. The producers even set a deadline. They gave a specific date for the end of the crunch, which was still months away from the title shipping date, so it seemed safe. That date came and went. When the next news came, it was about to be a reprieve. It was another acceleration. 12 hours, 6 days a week, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Weeks passed. Again, the producers had given a termination date on this crunch that, again, they failed. Throughout this period, the project remained on schedule, squeezing as many hours out of you as they can. And the project is still on schedule. See, they don't care about you. The long hours started to take a toll on its team. People grew irritable and some started to get ill. The manager stopped even talking about a day when the hours would go back to normal. So it started off with, you're just going to crunch for a little bit. We just really need to get this done. It's going to end here. And then they hit you with more crunch. And then even more crunch. And then eventually, yeah, it's not going to end. You're just going to, this is the new norm. Adapt. For the honor of this treatment, EA salaried employees receive A, no overtime, B, no compensation time. So you're not getting any more money for doing these insane crunches, these insane overtime hours, and you're not even getting any extra vacation or any extra time off. You get nothing. You just get a pat on the back and maybe your name's in the credits. Additionally, EA recently announced that although in the past they have offered essentially a type of comp time in the form of a few weeks off at the end of a project, they no longer wish to do this, and employees shouldn't expect it. Amazingly, Electronic Arts was listed number 91 on Fortune magazine's 100 Best Companies to Work For in 2003. This is in 2003 and 2004, and it was already this bad. And as corporations figure out how to squeeze more and more profits out of their resources, it's only going to get worse. I would say if you're young and you're single and you have no problem with putting your head down and doing what you're told for 100 hours a week in hopes that you'll make it up the company ladder so that the next time they want to have a net headcount reduction of 8%, you won't be part of that. You'll be the one giving the order. What's the solution to making video games if that's what you want to do? I would say make sure it's a company that's willing to say, we need more people, we need more time, or we need more money. The company has to be willing to say one of those things. The company has to basically be willing to risk getting the project canceled, which could result in you not even having a job. But, you know, what's better? You not having a job or your entire mental health being driven to its absolute limits? The industry in general is probably just the hardest one there is when it comes to software. If you're in college and you're thinking about going to school for game design, I would recommend that you seriously think about maybe being an indie dev and documenting it and making a Patreon or crowdsourcing it or crowdfunding it or something like that, because the industry will tear you up and spit you out. And if this video has been helpful or maybe a little bit too real, click like, click subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. I have some stuff down there in the description if you're interested. Check those out. I'll see you in the next one.